and a very warm welcome to one and all. You're watching News 9. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of this hour. We begin by telling you what's been happening at the Israel-Hamas war front.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
The war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 73rd day. Let's get you the latest update on your screen. Israel says it has discovered biggest Hamas tunnel in Gaza. That is a claim there made by the Israeli Defense Forces. The IDF claims to have taken operational control over parts of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Israeli strikes killed 90 Gazans in Jabalia refugee camp. That is what the Gaza Health Ministry has said. It has also added 70% of Gazans killed in war are women and children. 478 trucks sent to the Rafah crossing in Egypt. That is what Israel has said. Meanwhile, brother of Israeli hostage mistakenly killed by IDF says army murdered him. U.S. to press Israel to define war milestones. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will push Israeli officials to define milestones for its war against Gaza. That is what, against in fact Hamas in Gaza, that is what a CNN report has stated. Israeli forces fighting Hamas in Gaza claimed to have uncovered an unusually large concrete and iron-girded tunnel designed to carry carloads of terrorists from Gaza right up to the border. Here's a full report.
Israeli forces battling Hamas said they had uncovered an unusually large concrete and iron-girded tunnel at the Gaza-Israel border designed to transport carloads of militant fighters. Chief Israeli military spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said the tunnel was 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles long, stretching from Gaza City, once the heart of Hamas governance and now a devastated combat zone, to the Erez crossing at the Israeli border.
Without demolishing the tunnel project of Hamas, we cannot demolish Hamas.
Raising or disabling hundreds of kilometers of underground passages and bunkers is among the aims of the Israeli offensive. The military showed reporters the exit point of the tunnel, located just 100 meters south of the checkpoint at Erez. The Erez crossing is one of the sites Hamas overran on October 7th, killing 1,200 Israelis and taking 240 others hostage. Hagari said it was the biggest tunnel Israeli forces have found near the border, without specifying whether it was used by Hamas for the October 7th attack. Generally, the tunnels shown to the media by the group or by the Israeli military after their discovery have been narrow and low, designed for single-file movement of gunmen on foot. The tunnel shown by Hagari had shafts plunging vertically downward that he said suggested it was part of a wider network. Hamas did not respond to a Reuters request for comment on the Israeli account. Since the October 7th attack, Israel has besieged Gaza and laid much of the Palestinian enclave to waste. Around 19,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to Gaza health officials, with thousands more suspected buried in the rubble of Israeli airstrikes.
On Sunday, the IDF released a video claiming to show Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, traveling in a car through a massive 4-kilometer long and 50-meter deep strategic level tunnel near the Erez crossing in Gaza. Israeli forces engaged in combat with Hamas in Gaza asserted that they uncovered the biggest Hamas tunnel near Gaza. Chief Military Spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, while showing the tunnel to the media, described it as Sinwar's secret and stated that millions of dollars had been invested in the project. In a silent video, Sinwar can be seen giving instructions to the driver as they travel through the tunnel. The visuals of the same right on your screens. This IDF video, they're showing Sinwar's brother inside tunnel. Airstrikes in the Gaza Strip have killed at least 100 people over the last 24 hours as Israel's leadership faces growing international pressure for a ceasefire and calls at home to resume hostage negotiations after the Israeli army shot and killed 3 men kidnapped by Hamas. The health ministry in the Hamas-run Palestinian territory said on Sunday that at least 90 people had been killed by Israeli bombardment in the Jabalia camp in the north, and another 12 had died in bombings in the central city of Deir al-Balah as fighting was reported in several parts of Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that at least 5 Palestinians were killed on Sunday in an Israeli attack on a Tulk arm in the occupied West Bank. 2 individuals were shot dead by Israeli forces on the same day. The Health Ministry added that another Palestinian also died on Sunday after sustaining injuries in an Israeli attack in the West Bank city of Jenin a few days ago. Now, the Israeli military stated that it has been intensifying operations against Palestinian militant group in the West Bank. On Thursday, Israel confirmed killing more than 10 people it referred to as terrorists in raids in Jenin, where several militant groups have a presence. The Israeli military released footage on Saturday claiming to show its troops assaulting a tunnel shaft occupied by a Palestinian militant. In the video, soldiers can be seen shooting and throwing grenades at an opening in the ground. Take a look.
تنش شمال يلا خد خد زوج ليكود معاك ليكود تنش קוד 104 חיובי, אויב ודאי בתוך הפיר. זרקתי רימון, ככל הנראה הושמד. כרגע זורק עוד רימון. תן לשמש.
The Israeli military stated that its forces had killed a militant hiding in the shaft and destroyed the tunnel. Israel stepped up its bombardment of Gaza overnight and into Sunday after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu argued that the only way to secure the release of hostages was intense military pressure on Hamas.
Israel stepped up its bombardment of Gaza overnight and into Sunday, Palestinians said, adding that dozens of people were killed. It comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu argued the only way to secure the release of hostages was intense military pressure on Hamas. The attacks also follow Friday talks between Israel's spy chief and the Prime Minister of Qatar, which mediated earlier hostage releases in return for a week-long ceasefire and the freeing of Palestinian prisoners. That's according to a source with knowledge of the matter. Residents and militants say Israeli attacks took place amid fierce fighting the length of the coastal enclave. Communications were also down for a 4th day, making it hard to reach the wounded. Hamas militants say they will not discuss freeing any more of those captured when they attacked southern Israel on October 7th. If Israel continues the war on Gaza, it unleashed in response. With no signs of compromise, violence has intensified. In Khan Yunis, injured Palestinians were rushed in ambulances and on donkey carts to Nasser Hospital after what they say was an Israeli airstrike on the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency's school. Where is safe, says this man, adding he's worried about getting killed while in the hospital. Israeli missile strikes also hit a house, killing at least 24 people and wounding dozens of others in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, Hamas Aqsa Radio said, citing the health ministry. Health officials were not available for immediate comment. Israel said it had operated against terrorist targets. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, the frustrated families of hostages held in Gaza set up a campsite near Israel's defense ministry. They vowed to stay there until the government secures a deal with Hamas to release their loved ones.
It's important for me to be here today because we need to put more pressure on the government to remind them that the hostage situation must be ended with a deal, and the deal must be right now because we don't have any more time to waste. We cannot wait for them to try to rescue them by army with army forces. It needs to be with diplomatic deal, by a negotiation.
Around 19,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to Gaza health officials, and thousands buried in the rubble of Israeli airstrikes since October 7th. Israel says Hamas militants killed 1,200 people and captured 240 hostages in their surprise raid that day.
Alon Lulu Shamriz, an Israeli man who was among 3 hostages mistakenly shot dead by the Israeli army in Gaza, was laid to rest at a funeral in Israel on Sunday.
That's not what we fought for. We changed the world for you. My child, you were strong, determined, smart. You were a hero. You survived 70 days in hell. I know you felt us all the time, the way we felt you. Another moment, and you were in my arms. We will continue to live for you. We will continue to breathe for you. We will continue to be for you. We have missed you for so long. Sadness has no end. I love you, Mum.
According to a World Health Organization worker, Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital is completely overwhelmed and can only provide the most basic care to patients. In a video published on social media, WHO's emergency medical team's coordinator Sean Casey said Shifa hospital has been reduced to a trauma stabilization point. Listen in.
We're currently in Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza, which is the largest hospital here in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip. It's completely overwhelmed with patients, very few staff remaining. As we've been here for the last 30 minutes, there's been a non-stop stream of injured people coming in on trolleys, on donkey carts, on stretchers being pushed down the road. There are almost no medical staff here. This largest referral hospital here in Gaza has become a trauma stabilization point. They can only provide the most basic care for people with very serious injuries and very serious illnesses. There are women delivering in these common spaces that are just absolutely packed to the brim. Most patients are on the floor. A few are in beds and stretchers behind me. The emergency department is just covered in blood and there are very few staff. Children are being treated on the floor for serious injuries, for burns, for open wounds. They're struggling to get operating theaters working again. There is no intensive care capacity and it's almost impossible to transfer patients out of Shifa. It's absolute chaos.
We now slip into a quick break. We'll be right back with lots more on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
yes, the scale of the attack surprised us.
When you get a series of alerts, 16 intelligence alerts, if Maharashtra government at that time had alerted the Coast Guard and the Navy, this 2611 would not have happened at all.
And one of the details they had planned was to use these dhagas to mislead the investigative agencies.
All this was to be presented as a Hindu terror.
So it was a Pakistan operation. The LET was the front end.
As the attacks were on, it was clear that they were planned and launched from Pakistani territory.
For all of those victims of terror that was exported from Pakistan over the years, including but not limited to 2611.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. A Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump, declares plans for the largest deportation in American history if re-elected in 2024. During a Reno rally, he labeled President Joe Biden a low IQ individual and the worst, most incompetent and most corrupt president in US history. A day earlier, Trump in New Hampshire accused undocumented immigrants of poisoning the blood of our country, using language criticized as xenophobic and echoing Nazi rhetoric. He emphasized this stance amid concerns about the record number of migrants attempting illegal US border crossings.
Given the unprecedented millions of Biden illegal aliens who are invading our country, it is only common sense that when I'm re-elected, we will begin, and we have no choice, the largest deportation operation in American history. We have no choice. Joe Biden and the Democrat Party are incapable of solving any problem. There's not a problem they've been able to solve. Crooked Joe is a low, you know this, did you ever hear this? Crooked Joe is a low IQ individual. And he is truly the worst, most incompetent, and most corrupt president in the history of our country. In fact, Jimmy Carter is very happy because he looks like that was a brilliant administration by comparison to what you have right now.
Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy vowed to pardon all peaceful protesters involved in the January 6, 2021 attack on the US Capitol. Speaking at the Turning Point Action Conference, he criticized the incident, suggesting it appeared to be an intentional intelligence failure.
Yes, I know it's St. Patrick's Day weekend.
538, a polling and analysis website, indicates Ramaswamy has 4% support among Republican primary voters, while Trump leads with approximately 63%. Listen in.
Is by tomorrow morning.
And I think you got to ask yourself, why am I the only candidate in this race who can say certain things? That January 6th was the product of entrapment, that our money is being sent to persecute Christians from Ukraine to Armenia, something you're not supposed to talk about, to the fact that the climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate and everything to do with China.
Months before the 2024 election, recent polls suggest former President Donald Trump leads President Joe Biden in key swing states such as Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Notably, Biden won these states in 2020 and Trump must flip some to secure victory. Despite Trump's apparent advantage, Biden faces a challenging task to enhance his standing. A CNN poll shows Trump leading by 5 points in Georgia, a state Biden won in 2020. Another poll indicates Biden's policies are perceived negatively in Georgia and Michigan, with concerns about economic conditions. Meanwhile, Trump, maintaining strong GOP support, faces legal challenges without a significant drop in popularity. President Joe Biden was safe on Sunday night after a car collided with a motorcade SUV that was part of the president's security detail. Biden and First Lady Jill Biden had just left his campaign headquarters when the collision occurred. Jill Biden was also safe following the incident. The Bidens had emerged from the Biden-Harris 2024 headquarters in rainy downtown, city after having a meal with members of his re-election team at the time of the incident. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić declared victory in a snap parliamentary election on Sunday after pollsters projected his ruling Serbian Progressive Party was on track to easily win. Vučić said an alliance headed by SNS, Serbia must not stop, would hold a majority in parliament, and there was already important work to do on the day after the election. Based on votes counted in a sample of polling stations, pollsters predicted the populist SNS won 46.2% of votes, while the opposition centre-left Serbia Against Violence Alliance is set to come second with 23.2%. The preliminary vote count suggested SNS will have a slim majority of at least 127 deputies, enough to rule alone, but it is expected to see coalition partners to cement its dominance of parliament.
Dakle, lista Srbija ne sme da stane, imaće svakako više od 127 mandata. Da li će biti 128, 129 ili 130? Ono što je rezultat ovih izbora, dakle, jedna lista, Srbija ne sme da stane, imaće apsolutnu većinu. I da kažem da mi već od sutra moramo da krenemo i da počnemo da se bavimo ozbiljnim poslom, jer smo, čini mi se, 2 meseca, ne mogu da kažem izgubili, jer je to deo jednog velikog i važnog demokratskog procesa, ali moramo da se posvetimo državi, napretku države i daljem napretku građana.
Far-right Dutch politician Geert Wilders expressed gratitude to supporters after a surprising election win. The conservative liberal figure pledged ongoing support for threatened Hindus in Pakistan or Bangladesh. Known for criticism of Islam, Wilders, a controversial lawmaker, faced accusation of inciting hatred and discrimination multiple times. Wilders' anti-Muslim Freedom Party emerged a clear winner in the polls held late last month, but has struggled to corral potential allies into coalition negotiations. The PVV claimed another prize on Friday as Martin Bosma was elected chair of the lower house of parliament. In other developments, Portugal's Socialist Party has elected Pedro Nuno Santos as its new leader for the 10th of March snap parliamentary elections. This comes after Prime Minister's resignation amid a corruption probe. Now, Santos, a 46-year-old former infrastructure minister, emphasizes inclusivity and a strong welfare state, while his main rival from the centre-right Social Democratic Party, Louis, promising tax cuts to capitalize on potential challenges within the majority socialist administration. Meanwhile, the opinion polls indicate a tight race, raising concerns about post-election deadlock and the potential rise of the populist party Chega. Hong Kong is all set for a significant national security trial involving prominent China critic Jimmy Lai. Tight security measures surround the proceedings as the pro-democracy activist faces charges of colluding with foreign forces, notably the United States. Outside the West Kowloon, a law court queues formed the night before the highly anticipated trial with a visible police presence to maintain order. Hong Kong's security chief issued a stern warning last week, emphasizing that any attempts to disrupt the trial proceedings would not be tolerated. The trial marks a critical moment in the ongoing tensions over national security and the protection of dissenting voices in Hong Kong. North Korea reportedly launched an unidentified ballistic missile on the 17th of December, as confirmed by Japan's Coast Guard and the South Korean military. According to the South Korean Joint Chiefs of the Staff, the missile was directed towards the sea of North Korea's east coast. However, no further details have been immediately reported. This launch follows warnings from officials in Seoul and Tokyo indicating that North Korea was gearing up for a missile test potentially involving one of its longest-range intercontinental ballistic missiles this month. It's important to note that all of North Korea's ballistic missile activities are prohibited by United Nations Security Council resolutions, although Pyongyang asserts its sovereign right to self-defense. Meanwhile, Japan's defense minister explained the launch as he said the missile fired has a potential range exceeding 15,000 kilometers, capable of reaching anywhere in Japan and the mainland United States. Listen in.
今回発射された ICBM 級弾道ミサイルは、今回の飛翔軌道に基づいて計算をしますと、弾頭重量等によっては1万5000キロメートルを超える射程となりうるとみられ、その場合、米国全土が射程に含まれることになります。発射された弾道ミサイルは約73分飛翔し、午前9時37分ごろ、北海道の奥尻島の北西約250キロメートルの日本海、我が国の排他的経済水域 EEZ 外に落下したものと推定されます。
We'll skip it a short break now. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. I'm music composer Ricky Cage. Three-time Grammy Award winner and a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador. And you're watching me on First Person on News 9 Plus.
This and more streaming now on the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Literally every major power in the world is gearing up with its own digital currency. And so is India. But India's UPI has taken digital transactions to the next level. So, with UPI already available, what exactly is the use case for the e-rupee?
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus, download now.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2, no end in sight. Streaming now.
Delhi has the fastest growing metro network among G20 nations. From 6 stations in 2002, it today has 286 stations. Reliability, cleanliness and affordability have set the template for other Indian metros. The architect of this modern-day world-class marvel is E. Sridharan. Watch the extraordinary life of Metroman E. Sridharan streaming now on News 9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. Now, China has reported 7 cases of the COVID subvariant JN.1, with officials stating its current prevalence is very low. While not ruling out its potential dominance, factors like imported cases were cited. JN.1 first appeared in Kerala, India on the 13th of December, raising concerns about the state's rising COVID cases. The Indian SARS-CoV-2 Genomics Consortium confirmed its presence. In the United States, the CDC estimates JN.1 now represents over 1/5 of all cases with potential increased transmissibility. Though severity remains uncertain, reported symptoms include disabling fatigue and respiratory issues. The CDC suggests heightened transmission risk during winter months. The JN.1 variant of COVID is acknowledged as a lineage of Omicron, specifically BA.2.86 or Pirola, according to reports. The World Health Organization recognizes it as a notable descendant lineage of Omicron, suggesting potential increased transmissibility or ability to evade immunity. Pirola's descendants have been reported in various countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Iceland, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands, with detections in 38 countries, including India. It is implicated in recent surges in hospitalizations globally. In a bold move that signals a major shift, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, renowned for groundbreaking advancements in AI, has intensified the organization's foray into cryptosphere. Doubling down on their commitment, the company unveils its involvement in the ambitious Worldcoin project.
Raise your right hand.
Since being fired, then rehired as head of OpenAI, Sam Altman has doubled down on his vision for another one of his ventures, Worldcoin cryptocurrency. Worldcoin, launched in July, is a cutting-edge, if somewhat controversial, financial network that offers digital currency, sometimes for free, to those willing to scan their irises into a spherical device. So far, more than 2.6 million people worldwide have logged their identity into the orb, despite fears it could create a potential privacy nightmare, according to one U.S. research center focusing on privacy issues. Altman, one of Worldcoin's founders, argues that tracking a person's biometrics is essential amid the increasing use of artificial intelligence, something he also champions at OpenAI, where his ChatGPT is leading the AI charge. Speaking as part of a virtual Q&A Thursday, Altman defended Worldcoin's eye scans as a way to rule out bots, saying, quote, "In a world with a lot of AI, knowing who is human matters more and more." The online event came a week after crypto news outlet The Block reported that the company behind Worldcoin, Tools for Humanity, was seeking to raise $50 million from investors. A spokesperson for Worldcoin did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
A dozen people were killed in an attack at a holiday party in the central Mexican state of Guanajuato, Mexican authorities said on Sunday. Now, locals said they heard gunshots and saw injured people running on the street. Police officers responded soon and arrived at the scene of a deadly attack. The attack took place at dawn in the town of Silvatera when an armed group opened fire on party-goers attending a posada, a traditional Mexican party held in the days leading up to Christmas. The state's Attorney General office said on X, formerly Twitter, that 12 people had been killed without giving any more details. Guanajuato, home to a significant number of automotive and aeronautics factories, has in recent years become one of the most violent states in the country amid clashes between powerful drug trafficking groups. Australian authorities on Sunday urged thousands of people in North Queensland state to move to higher ground because of the danger of flooding from torrential rains. The flooding came with heavy rain from ex-tropical cyclone Jasper, which hit the region this week, leaving tens of thousands without power, forcing evacuations. Queensland authorities said major flooding was underway in some suburbs. Australia's weather forecaster predicted dangerous and life-threatening flash flooding in some parts and said water levels later on Sunday could exceed a 1971 record flood peak of 4.1 meters in some places. Listen in.
There is a serious weather emergency playing out right now as we speak. There's been a very high level of rainfall overnight and during today, and it's likely to continue. And at this stage, there are major flood warnings across a number of catchments. The Cairns Airport has just closed. It's expected to see flooding that exceeds the 1977 flood level.
In a tragic turn of events in Argentina, at least 13 lives were lost as a severe electrical storm wreaked havoc along the country's Atlantic coast. The storm, characterized by destructive winds exceeding 150 km/h, left a trail of devastation. In the Buenos Aires province, trees were uprooted, lampposts toppled and roofs destroyed in the wake of this natural catastrophe. The region, known for being one of Argentina's primary grain-producing areas, now faces the aftermath of this powerful storm. The President's office released a statement acknowledging the severity of the situation and extending condolences to the families who lost their loved ones. The storm's impact was felt profoundly, not just as a meteorological event, but as a tragic episode that has deeply affected communities along the Argentine Atlantic coast. Bosnian towns have topped the world air pollution charts for at least a few days in December. The country remains one of the most polluted in Europe. The capital city has declared an air quality warning, with experts blaming residential solid fuel burning and transportation for the pollution. Take a look.
Bosnian towns have topped the world air pollution charts for at least a few days in December. The country remains one of the most polluted in Europe. The capital city of Sarajevo has declared an air quality warning, with experts blaming residential solid fuel burning and transportation for the pollution. Despite Sarajevo authorities' pledge to make the city carbon-free by 2035, experts say a cost of living crisis has forced people to choose cheaper solid fuels for home heating and to drive older cars with higher emissions of pollutants. According to the World Bank, Bosnia has among the highest levels of fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, pollution in Europe, with the burning of solid fuel for home heating and the transport sector contribute about 50% and 20% respectively. Enis Krečanić is an environmental expert at the Bosniak-Croat Federation's Hydrometeorological Institute.
When we talk about air quality in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it is nothing new and not something that has appeared only recently. This is a problem that has existed here for decades, even longer. Why is it so? It's very simple. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a rather poor country, so the way of life of people here is quite different from the life of people in Europe. Our industry was largely based on heavy industry, dirty industry and the like.
Kretschenich says December is particularly bad with pollution when the temperature drops. Cooler temperatures and a drop in the wind trap pollutants in the atmosphere for longer. Some cities located in the centre of the country are in what is known as the Coal Valley. They have had more days of excessive pollution during the calendar year, despite the closure of some of the country's mining and heavy industry. Physicians say exposure to fine particulates matter poses serious health risks. Tufik Hadziosmanovic is a lung specialist doctor.
Our respiratory system has a function that expels harmful substances, but exposure to this type of air pollution that lasts for years leads to failure of that apparatus. And this very often happens in young people, in children, and especially in chronic patients, which then again leads to the formation of exacerbations of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Turkey, Romania and Bulgaria are set to finalize a joint agreement in January to address the issue of floating mines in the Black Sea resulting from the conflict in Ukraine. The three NATO allies engaged in months of discussions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The trilateral initiative involving Turkey, Romania and Bulgaria aims to clear the mines. The signing ceremony is scheduled for the 11th of January in Istanbul. Turkish Defense Minister highlighted the persistent threat, noting that mines from Ukrainian and Russian ports can drift to Turkey's straits due to currents. Turkey's mine-clearing vessels will conduct continuous patrols up to Romania's sea borders. Now, India remains dedicated to reclaiming Pakistan-occupied Kashmir as per the 1994 Parliament resolution. Is war a suitable option to win back POC, or can we go through the International Court of Justice to address this unfinished business? Take a look.
पाकिस्तान की सरकार को भी स्पष्ट बतलाना चाहता हूं कि कश्मीर की रट लगाकर कुछ हासिल नहीं होगा। भारत की संसद में पीओके को लेकर एक सर्वसम्मत प्रस्ताव पारित है। वह भारत का ही हिस्सा था, है और आगे भी हम मानते हैं।
August 1947. India got its freedom and Pakistan was created. Since then till now, there is an unfinished business of partition. And that is taking back its territories of Gilgit-Baltistan and POK being held by Pakistan. Is war an option, or can we win back our territories in the International Court of Justice?
The very law that created Pakistan itself makes J&K part of India. If Pakistan disowns this law, there is no Pakistan.
The National Command Authority and all are all subservient to Pakistan military. So the possibility of a major loss translating itself to use a nuclear device is possible.
So you have to have a full idea of what this entails, militarily, economically, politically, internationally. Then you can think about acting or planning.
Reuniting Gilgit-Baltistan and POK.
In 1947, India got its independence and was partitioned to create Pakistan.
the provinces and principalities within India were given a choice to join either India or Pakistan. Jammu and Kashmir, a princely state ruled by Maharaja Hari Singh, decided not to accede either to India or Pakistan, until Pakistan launched Operation Gulmarg on the 22nd of October 1947. Thousands of tribal mercenaries and Pakistani army regulars invaded Kashmir Valley. After being a free country for about 72 days, the Maharaja signed the Instrument of Accession and joined India. On the 28th of October, Indian troops started landing in Jammu and Kashmir. The war continued till the end of 1948 and ended with a UN-mediated ceasefire in January of 1949. But this ceasefire left a large chunk of Jammu and Kashmir with Pakistan. The territory is what is called POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. It was from Gilgit-Baltistan that General Musharraf's invasion of Kargil was launched in 1999. To get back Indian territories, let's look at the options before India. The first and the obvious one is an all-out war.
POK or Gilgit-Baltistan is not just a piece of 500 square meters land. It's a huge area. It is populated. It is well defended. And it has the all-important Karakoram highway through it. And the Chinese will not let you do anything to it. So if you're going to try and get it back militarily, you have to be prepared for Chinese opposition to it. And they would, to my mind, open another front for us, against us. So are we ready for that? So unless you can create a movement within that place that seeks, like there was in East Pakistan. But remember, East Pakistan was 1,000 miles away from Pakistan. This is contiguous. It's contiguous with Pakistan, contiguous with China. So it's not a cakewalk. In a sparsely populated area where demonstrations are few, communications are unknown, the idea that there is an upsurge is difficult to imagine happening. And anything that you do which is seen as hostile in Pakistan tends to reunite them. They may be fighting each other these days in Lahore and Islamabad. But the moment they see an Indian threat, they'll all double down and get together.
Can we win POK back with a war? In 1963, Pakistan had illegally leased Shaksgam Valley to China in exchange for military and nuclear technology. Then there is the CPAC, a bilateral project between China and Pakistan that will facilitate trade between China, Pakistan and other countries in the region. China's economic